This is Earl Nightingale, speaking to you from a quiet studio, where the truths of life resonate like the deep hum of a cathedral bell, piercing the fog of a world half asleep, calling to those who stumble, who seek, who yearn to rise above failure and claim the life they were born to live. Before we embark on this journey, a journey that may unveil the hidden chains binding your soul, that may light a fire in the darkness of your doubts, that may guide you to the freedom of a mind reclaimed, I extend a heartfelt invitation to join our fellowship of awakeners. These are the souls who dare to question, who burn with the spark of awareness, who refuse to drift through life in the shadow of failure. If this message stirs your heart, if it kindles a light in the quiet of your mind, I urge you to share it by subscribing to this program. Write to us, share your thoughts in our great conversation, and let us know you stand with us by leaving your mark of approval. Your voice strengthens this circle, and together we can forge a brotherhood of those who see the truth, who speak the truth, who live the truth. Now, settle in, for we speak of a truth so piercing, so unshakable. It has been feared by those who would keep you bound, who would dim your fire, who would let you fail without ever knowing why. The reason you're still failing, my friends, is not what you think it is. This is the truth that can set you free, the whisper that becomes thunder, the key that unlocks the prison of your mind. Will you hear it? Will you heed it? Will you become it? The choice is yours, and the moment is now. Let's begin. There are truths, my friends, so potent they echo through the ages like a stone cast into a still pond, so radiant they pierce the veil of time, so profound they awaken the soul from its deepest slumber. One such truth is this: the reason most fail is not what they think. It is not a lack of luck, nor a scarcity of talent, nor the cruelty of timing. It is something far more invisible, far more dangerous, a silent thief that steals dreams, dims fires, and builds walls where none need stand. Failure, my friends, grows not from doing too little, but from thinking wrongly, from carrying thoughts planted by others, from sowing seeds that bear no fruit, from steering by stars that lead nowhere. This truth began as a whisper, barely audible, passed from monk to merchant, from stoic to scribe, from the quiet chambers of philosophers to the bustling markets of ancient cities, until it grew, swelling like a tide, resounding like a bell, until it became thunder, shaking the hearts of those who heard it, lifting them from the shadows of failure to the light of a life reclaimed. Picture a village, its streets winding beneath a twilight sky, its people moving in rhythm with the toll of a clock tower, their days measured by tasks they did not choose, their dreams dimmed by thoughts they did not question. Into this village comes a wanderer, his eyes alight with a fire that burns through the fog, his voice carrying a phrase that stirs the air like a wind before a storm. He speaks of the mind, of its power to shape destiny, of the hidden reason failure takes root, not in the world, but in the thoughts we allow to grow. The villagers listen, their hearts quickening, their eyes lifting from the ground to the stars. But the keepers of order grow uneasy. These words, they declare, are too bold, too dangerous, too bright. They threaten the rhythm of the village, the predictability of its harvest, the silence of its routine. And so, they hush the wanderer. They warn the people to forget his words, to return to their plows, their looms, their ledgers, to let the clock tower dictate their days, to let the fog of failure settle over their souls. But truth, my friends, is not so easily silenced. It is like a fire that, once kindled, cannot be extinguished, like a river that, once loosed, cannot be dammed, like a star that, once risen, cannot be hidden, like a seed that, once planted, cannot be uprooted. The wanderer's words spread, whispered in the glow of hearths, shared in the quiet of fields, carried on the winds that sweep across oceans and plains, etched into the hearts of those who dare to listen. They reached the farmer, his hands deep in the earth, his heart stirred by the possibility of planting not just crops, but dreams, of sowing thoughts that bear fruit beyond his fields. They reached the craftsman, his workshop alive with the scent of wood, his soul awakened to the vision of shaping not just objects, but a life of purpose. They reached the poet, her pen poised above a blank page, her mind ignited by the call to write verses that lift the soul from failure to freedom. They reached the merchant, his shop a hub of trade, his heart stirred by the dream of building not just wealth, but harmony, a bridge to distant lands. They reached the sailor, his ship tethered to the harbor, his heart awakened to the possibility of charting not just seas, but his own destiny. These words, once a whisper, became thunder, a resounding call that pierced the fog of failure, that shattered the chains of wrong thinking, that lit a fire in the souls of those who heard them. I shared a fragment of this truth years ago in a message called The Strangest Secret, when I said, we become what we think about most of the time, and that's the strangest secret. These words, so simple yet so profound, are the key that unlocks the hidden reason for failure, the spark that ignites the fire of awareness, the seed that grows into a garden of achievement. They are the thunder that can awaken you, if you will hear them, if you will speak them, if you will live them. And so, I ask you, listener, do you hear that whisper in the quiet of your heart? Do you feel its gentle nudge, its persistent call, its promise of freedom from failure? Will you let it pass like a breeze through the trees, or will you let it become thunder, shaking the foundations of your life, lighting a fire that no force can extinguish? Why you fail, my friends? The world would have you believe it is a matter of chance, a twist of fate, a door locked by forces beyond your control. But I tell you now, failure begins in a place you seldom look, in soil you never noticed, in seeds planted long ago by voices not your own. It begins in the thoughts you carry, the beliefs you water, the ideas you allow to take root in the garden of your mind. Picture a farmer, his fields stretching beneath a wide sky, his hands sowing seeds he never chose, seeds handed to him by others, seeds of doubt, of fear, of limitation. He plows without question, waters without thought, and wonders why his fields yield only weeds, why his harvest is bitter, why his heart remains heavy, why his life feels like a room with no door. This farmer, my friends, is you, and the seeds you sow are the thoughts you think, thoughts planted by schoolmasters who taught you to conform, by merchants who sold you dreams of safety, by voices that told you to stay small, to expect little, to fear failure, to water weeds instead of roots. These thoughts are the hidden reason you fail. Not because you lack effort, but because you sow the wrong seeds, because you tend the wrong garden, because you live behind invisible walls, inside a room never locked, only assumed shut. This seed of failure, my friends, is the forgotten truth of your life, planted deep within your mind at birth, waiting to be uprooted, replaced with seeds of purpose, of courage, of vision. It is not found in the fields of others, nor in the markets of distant cities, nor in the stars that guide the sailor's way. It is in your thoughts, in your ability to see the weeds, to question the seeds, to choose what grows in the garden of your soul. Picture the craftsman, his hands skilled, but his heart heavy, believing his work must be small, never questioning the limits he was taught, never seeing the invisible walls of doubt. He carves without passion, builds without joy, and wonders why his creations lack beauty, why his life feels like a fire unlit, why his soul remains a seed unplanted. Picture the poet, her pen idle, her dreams buried beneath the weight of routine, believing her words must please others, never questioning the voices that told her to silence her truth, never seeing the room she assumed was locked. She writes without fire and wonders why her verses fade, why her heart aches for more, why her life feels like a river uncharted. Picture the merchant, his shop bustling, yet his spirit restless, believing his success must be measured in gold, never questioning the ledger of others' dreams, never seeing the walls he built in his mind. He trades without purpose and wonders why his wealth feels hollow, why his heart grows cold, why his life feels like a garden barren. The seed of failure is within you, my friends, not in the world beyond. It is the thought of limitation, the belief in scarcity, the fear of falling, the weed that chokes the root, the wall that needs no key, the room that needs no door. Yet how forgotten, how neglected, how buried deep this seed lies. Beneath the weight of habit, it grows, fed by the voices that tell you to conform, to obey, to drift, to accept failure as fate. The world would have you believe that failure is a wall, unyielding and eternal, that to question your thoughts is folly, that to uproot the weeds is too painful. But I tell you now, the wise know this truth. The first escape from failure begins not with action, but with awareness, with seeing the seeds you sow, with choosing the thoughts you water, with tending the garden of your mind. Picture the sailor, his ship tethered to the harbor, his heart yearning for uncharted seas, who does not seek freedom in the horizon, but in the courage to steer his own course, uprooting seeds of fear to plant seeds of faith. Picture the poet, her chamber lit by a single candle, her heart alive with verses unvoiced, who does not seek beauty in the applause of others, but in the quiet of her own truth, uprooting seeds of doubt to plant seeds of vision. Picture the farmer, his fields alive with possibility, who does not seek abundance in the fields of others, but in the soil of his own mind, uprooting seeds of limitation to plant seeds of purpose. The seed of failure is yours to uproot, my friends, and the seed of success is yours to plant, not by chance, but by choice, not by luck, but by awareness, not by waiting, but by thinking, by sowing, by tending. And so, I ask you, listener, do you see the seeds in your garden? Do you feel their quiet presence, their bitter roots, their promise of change? Will you uproot them, water them with truth, light them with courage, or will you let them grow, choking the life you were meant to live? Will you open the door, or will you remain in a room you only assumed was locked? This truth, this seed of awareness, is not new, my friends, nor is it hidden. It is as old as the hills, as timeless as the tides, as eternal as the stars that guide the sailor's way, as enduring as the fire that burns in the forge of the heart, as steadfast as the roots that anchor a garden, as boundless as the river that seeks the sea. The wise of every age knew it, lived it, built their lives upon it, leaving legacies that stand like the statues of ancient Greece, like the verses of poets, like the ships that crossed uncharted waters, like the tools forged by hands that shaped eternity. The sculptors of Rome, their chisels carving marble into forms that breathe, understood that the mind is not passive, that it creates, that it forges, that it shapes destiny with every thought. They knew that failure is not a lack of skill, but a lack of vision, that success is not a gift, but a craft, that the mind is the lever of all achievement, the seed of all greatness. Their statues were not mere stone. They were thoughts made real, gardens of marble that bloomed through centuries, fires that burned through time. The poets, their chambers lit by candlelight, their hearts alive with truths unvoiced, knew that their words were not mere sounds, but seeds, seeds that could awaken the soul, that could light a fire in the hearts of those who heard them, that could forge a legacy eternal. They thought not just of verses, but of eternity, and their lines became a constellation, a map for souls lost in the fog of failure. The sailors, their ships braving the black waters of unknown seas, knew that their course was not merely a path through waves, but a journey of the mind, a steering by inner constellations, a choice to think beyond the horizon. They thought not just of ports, but of destinies, and their voyages became a testament to the power of thought, a river that flowed to the sea of achievement. Consider the craftsmen of old, their hands skilled in the quiet trades of wood and iron, their hearts alive with the vision of creation. They were not kings, nor scholars, nor captains of great fleets, but they knew the hidden reason for failure, for they thought not just of the task before them, but of what their labor could become, of the seeds they could plant, of the fires they could forge. Picture the blacksmith, his forge glowing with molten iron, his hands steady as he shaped tools that would build homes, plow fields, shape lives. He knew that his work was not merely metal, but thought, that each strike of his hammer was a choice, that each tool was a victory over failure, a seed planted in the garden of his soul. Picture the carpenter, his workshop filled with the scent of sawdust, his hands crafting tables that would hold the laughter of families, chairs that would bear the weight of dreams. He knew that his work was not merely wood, but purpose, that each cut of his saw was a thought, that each piece he built was a step toward a worthy ideal, a fire kindled in the forge of his heart. Picture the merchant, his shop a bridge between nations, his heart alive with the vision of harmony. He knew that his trade was not merely goods, but connection, that each bargain he struck was a thought, that each market he built was a triumph over failure, a river flowing to the sea of abundance. As I said in Lead the Field, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. The wise knew this, my friends. They knew that their thoughts were the hammer, the helm, the seed, the fire, the lever that could lift them from failure to freedom, from mediocrity to mastery, from the fog of doubt to the light of achievement. They knew that to think is to create, to dream is to build, to envision is to become, to sow is to reap, to forge is to triumph. This truth was not reserved for the mighty, nor hidden from the humble. It was known to the farmer who thought of abundant harvests and worked to make them real, planting a garden that fed the world. It was known to the poet who thought of eternal truths and spoke them to the world, lighting a fire that burned through centuries. It was known to the sailor who thought of discovery and charted seas unknown, forging a path that others followed. It was known to the craftsman who thought of mastery and built a life beyond the workshop, sowing a seed that bloomed for generations. The wise were not different from you, my friends. They were simply awake, their minds alive with thoughts of what could be, their hearts bold with the fire of purpose, their hands forging a life of meaning. They spoke the truth, they lived the truth, they sowed the seeds, they kindled the fires, they steered by their own constellations, and they reaped the riches of a life well lived. And so, I ask you, listener, will you join them? Will you think as they thought, dream as they dreamed, act as they acted, sow as they sowed, forge as they forged? If this message has stirred your soul, if it has awakened the seeker within you, join our fellowship. Write to us, share your thoughts, and let us know you're with us by leaving your mark of approval. Let us stand together as those who know the truth, as those who speak the words, as those who live the freedom, as those who forge the fire. Will you let the wisdom of the ages pass you by, or will you claim it as your own, planting the seed, lighting the fire, steering by your own stars? Will you think like the wise, or will you drift with the many, lost in the fog of failure? Why then, do so few awaken to this truth, while so many remain asleep, not rising but falling, not creating but drifting, not forging their own destinies but sowing the seeds of failure, not lighting their own fires but wandering in the fog of mediocrity? The answer lies in the great machinery of the world, the systems that lull men to sleep that wrap their minds in chains of comfort, that bind their souls to the silent tick of sameness, that shroud their lives in a fog of default. Picture a vast plain, shrouded in mist, where men and women wander, their eyes open but their souls asleep, moving in herds, following paths worn by those before them, their voices repeating the thoughts of others, their hearts dim with a longing they cannot name, their fires unlit, their gardens unplanted. This is the sleep of the many, my friends, a sleep induced by the systems that surround us, by the quiet schools that teach repetition, by the gray halls that reward silence, by the lives built not by design, but by default. The schoolhouse, with its dusty books and rigid rows, teaches you to memorize, to obey, to follow, not to question, not to dream, not to think for yourself, not to light the fire in your soul. It fills your mind with the seeds of others, with the weeds of conformity, with the chains of limitation, leaving your own garden barren, your own fire unlit. The gray halls of labor, with their endless tasks and silent desks, demand your time, not your heart, rewarding those who drift without question, chaining your spirit to the hum of routine, locking your soul in a prison of sameness, a garden where no dreams grow. The village, with its quiet hearths and familiar paths, expects you to stay small, to repeat the lives of those before you, to let your dreams fade like stars at dawn, to let your fire dim, to let your garden wither. Consider the farmer, taught to sow the same seeds as his fathers, to follow the same seasons, to avoid the risks of change, to keep his fire hidden. The village depends on his harvest, and so he is told to stay predictable, to silence his visions, to let his garden grow weeds, to leave his fire unlit. He plows without question, reaps without passion, and drifts through life, his heart heavy with unspoken longing, his mind dulled by the clock tower's tick, his soul a spark unlit, a seed unplanted. Consider the craftsman, urged to build only what is needed, simple tools, sturdy tables, never the works of art that burn in his heart, never the fire that could light the world. The village needs his labor, and so he is kept in place, his hammer striking in rhythm with routine, his creations fading like the wood he shapes, his spirit confined to the gray silence of duty, his fire extinguished, his garden barren. Consider the poet, urged to write only what is familiar, to please the crowd, to suppress the truths that stir within her, to let her fire smolder. The village needs her verses, and so she is bound, her pen moving in patterns not her own, her words fading like ink on forgotten pages, her heart a river uncharted, her life a garden unplanted. These systems, my friends, are like coffins of comfort, their walls soft yet unyielding, keeping you safe from risk, but also from greatness, keeping you asleep while your dreams fade, while your fire dies, while your garden remains barren, your river uncharted. They lull you with the promise of safety, of ease, of certainty, but comfort is the enemy of awareness, the thief of purpose, the chain that binds your soul to a life of failure. These systems fear the awakened mind, my friends, for a man or woman who awakens is a force unstoppable, a flame unquenchable, a tide uncontainable, a star undeniable, a river unyielding, a garden unbreakable. They fear a farmer who questions his seeds, who might plant a garden that feeds not just his village, but his soul, who might kindle a fire that spreads. They fear a craftsman who dreams of mastery, who might create tools that inspire others to build, who might forge a fire that burns through time. They fear a poet who writes truths, who might awaken souls with her verses, who might plant a garden that blooms for centuries. An awakened man or woman questions the schoolhouse, challenges the gray halls, rewrites the village's rules, lights a fire that spreads, plants a garden that endures. This is why most remain asleep, my friends, because waking is painful. It is painful to see the weeds, to feel the chains, to hear the echoes of a programmed mind, to step into the unknown, to plant a seed in untested soil, to forge a new path, to kindle a new fire. The world would have you believe that sleep is safety, that to drift is peace, that failure is fate. But I tell you, as I said in Lead the Field, most people tiptoe through life, hoping to make it safely to death. Sleep is a coffin, my friends, a fog where your dreams go to die, a chain that binds your soul, a garden that remains barren, a fire that remains unlit, a river that never finds its sea. The wise know this, and they choose to awaken, to think, to dream, to sow, to forge, to live. And so, I ask you, listener, will you remain asleep, or will you awaken? Will you feel the fire of this truth within you, or will you let it fade into the fog? If this message has stirred your heart, if it has awakened the rebel within you, join our fellowship. Write to us, share your thoughts, and let us know you're with us by leaving your mark of approval. Let us stand together as those who refuse to drift, as those who speak the truth, as those who live the freedom, as those who kindle the fire. Will you let the lullabies lull you to sleep, or will you awaken to the truth, planting your garden, lighting your fire, steering by your own stars? And now, my friends, we come to the heart of this truth, the seed that awakens, the key that unlocks, the fire that burns away the fog, the hammer that shapes the destiny you were born to claim. It is this: you become what you think about most of the time. Speak these words, my friends, and let them take root in your soul. Write them down, as you would a sacred vow, in the quiet of your chamber, by the light of a candle, on a page that will become the blueprint of your life. Repeat them each dawn, each dusk, until they echo in your mind like the chime of a bell, until they guide your thoughts like a constellation, until they light your path like a fire, until they forge your destiny like a hammer on an anvil. These are not mere words, my friends. They are a law, a principle, a truth as eternal as the tides, as unyielding as the forge, as radiant as the star, as enduring as the garden, as boundless as the river. They are the key to reclaiming your mind, to uprooting the seeds of failure, to planting the seeds of success, to escaping the room you only assumed was locked. Plant these words in the fertile soil of your mind. Water them with faith. Nurture them with action. Light them with courage. Forge them with purpose. And watch as your life transforms into a garden of achievement, a fortress of freedom, a river of abundance, a fire that no darkness can extinguish. Picture the farmer, his fields once barren, his hands once heavy with the weight of routine, his heart once dim with the shadow of failure. He hears this truth, perhaps from a broadcast like this, and he writes it down. You become what you think about most of the time. It stirs him, like a wind lifting a seed, like a spark in dry tinder. He begins to think, not of limitation, but of abundance, not of weeds, but of crops, not of failure, but of a garden that feeds his soul, his village, his legacy. Each day he repeats the words. Each seed he plants with care. Each furrow he plows with purpose. And in time, his fields become a testament, his harvest a triumph, his name a whisper in every home, his life a garden that blooms with abundance, a fire kindled by the power of his thoughts. Picture the craftsman, his workshop once silent, his hands once idle, his heart once heavy with the weight of doubt. He hears these words from a fellow worker, and they resonate, like the toll of the bell, like starlight breaking through the fog. He writes them down, he repeats them, and he begins to think, not of simple tools, but of mastery, of creations that inspire, of a legacy that endures. Each cut he makes, Each piece he shapes becomes a step toward greatness, and his workshop becomes a sanctuary, his work a fire that burns through time, his life a forge that no failure can dim. Picture the poet, her pen once still, her dreams once silenced by the voices of others, her heart once a quiet chamber of longing. She hears these words from a mentor, and they ignite her, like a hammer striking an anvil, like a tide turning. She writes them down, she repeats them, and she begins to think, not of pleasing the crowd, but of speaking truth, of verses that lift the soul, of a legacy that shines like a star. Her lines become a beacon, a garden of words that blooms for centuries, her life a fire that no darkness can quench. Picture the merchant, his shop once a place of routine, his heart once restless with the pursuit of profit, his life once a cycle of failure. He hears these words from a passing trader, and they stir him, like a star guiding his course, like a flame lighting his path. He writes them down, he repeats them, and he begins to think, not of gold, but of harmony, of trade that unites hearts, of a legacy that brings peace. His markets become a bridge, his life a river of purpose, his legacy a fire that burns through time. Picture the sailor, his ship once tethered, his heart once heavy with the weight of uncharted dreams, his life once a shadow of failure. He hears these words by a campfire, and they awaken him, like a spark in dry grass, like a river breaking through stone. He writes them down, he repeats them, and he begins to think, not of safe harbors, but of uncharted seas, of courage that charts new worlds, of a legacy that guides others. His voyages become a testament, his life a constellation, his legacy a fire that no storm can extinguish. These stories, my friends, are the lives of those who heard these words, who spoke them, who lived them, who sowed them, who forged them. They are the men and women who awoke, who reclaimed their minds, who uprooted the seeds of failure, who planted the seeds of success, who kindled the fire, who followed the river, who steered by their own stars. Speak these words, my friends, and let them be your guide. Let them be the hammer that shapes your thoughts, for your thoughts are your freedom, your thoughts are your garden, your thoughts kindle your fire, your thoughts forge your destiny, your thoughts guide your river to the sea. As I said in The Strangest Secret, the architect of the universe didn't build a stairway leading nowhere. Think of what you desire, not what you fear. Picture your life as vividly as a blacksmith sees his forge, as clearly as a sailor sees the stars, as boldly as a farmer sees his fields, as brightly as a fire burns in the night, as enduringly as a garden blooms through seasons, as firmly as a river flows to the sea, and let that vision guide your every step, every action. Begin now with one thought, however small. The farmer does not plant his field in a day. He sows one seed, then another. The craftsman does not forge a masterpiece in an hour. He strikes one blow, then another. The poet does not write an epic in a breath. She crafts one line, then another. The merchant does not build a bridge in a moment. He makes one trade, then another. The sailor does not chart a sea in an instant. He steers one course, then another. Your thoughts are the seeds, your actions the water, your faith the sunlight, your courage the hammer, your vision the fire, your purpose the garden, your will the river. Speak the words, live the truth, sow the seed, kindle the fire, forge the path, follow the river, and the success will follow. And so, I ask you, listener, will you speak these words that awaken your mind? Will you let them reclaim your soul? Or will you let them fade like a whisper in the fog? If this truth has stirred your heart, join our fellowship. Write to us, share your thoughts, and let us know you're with us by leaving your mark of approval. Let us stand together, as those who refuse to fail, as those who kindle the fire, as those who live the freedom, as those who forge the future? Will you choose now to wake up, to reclaim your mind, to plant your garden, or will you drift, asleep in the fog of failure? And now, my friend, we come to you, you who listen in the stillness of your heart, you who sit alone in the quiet room, surrounded by the shadows of your doubts, a solitary soul at the crossroads of your life, poised between the fog of failure and the fire of freedom, between the chains of wrong thinking and the river of purpose, between the gray silence of a life unchosen and the thunder of a destiny you forge. I speak to you now, as if this were my final transmission, as if these were the last words I might ever share, as if you stood at the threshold of eternity, ready to choose the life you will live, the legacy you will leave, the fire you will kindle, the garden you will plant, the river you will follow. You are not a shadow, not a cog, not a seed doomed to wither, not a soul destined to wander in the fog of failure, not a life condemned to echo the thoughts of others. You are a creator, a dreamer, a blacksmith, a gardener, a sailor, a poet, a force with the power to forge your destiny, to plant your garden, to kindle your fire, to steer your ship, to write your truth, to follow your river to the stars. The truth you've heard today is yours to speak, to live, to sow, to forge, to make into thunder, a flame that no darkness can extinguish, a garden that no storm can uproot, a river that no dam can stop, a constellation that no fog can hide. Do not let this truth slip away, my friend, like a whisper lost in the wind, like a spark that fades in the night, like a tide that ebbs back, like a seed that lies unsown, like a flame that lies unlit, like a river that never finds its sea. Speak it now, with courage, with faith, with the fire of your soul, with the light of your truth, with the power of your will, with the strength of your purpose, with the glow of your dreams. Plant the seed of your vision, kindle the forge of your mind, steer the ship of your thoughts, forge the tools of your destiny, follow the river of your life, and let the world marvel at what you become. Your life is a forge, not a chain, a garden, not a weed, a river, not a prison, a fire, not a flicker, a constellation, not a shadow. Will you strike the spark now, or will you let it lie dormant? Will you plant the seed, or will you let the soil remain barren? Will you follow the river, or will you drift in the fog? This is Earl Nightingale, bidding you not farewell, but a new dawn, a new beginning, a new life of awakening. If this message has stirred your soul, if it has awakened the creator, the dreamer, the gardener within you, join our fellowship. Write to us, share your thoughts, and let us know you're with us by leaving your mark of approval. Together, let us speak the truth that breaks the chains of failure. Let us live the freedom that awakens the soul. Let us sow the seeds that grow the garden. Let us kindle the fires that light the path. Let us follow the rivers that lead to the stars. The choice is yours, my friend, and the moment is now. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your thinking. Change the floor.